In this edition of WUCF Artisodes, a Central Florida interpreter creates her own performances.
The deaf community has said, oh, that's what we want. This is great. I don't feel like I missed anything.
And a visually impaired photographer finds a new way to look at light.
I've described the setting as the water being a canvas, reflections being pigment, and the wind is the brush.
It's all coming up on WUCF Artisodes. Angela Roth, the president of ASL Services Incorporated, blends her knowledge of interpreting with her unique, energetic style to enhance her craft, American Sign Language.
Be yourself. You don't have to be anyone else. You don't have to be a...
The mentality for a long time was the interpreter has to be invisible, and the interpreter became almost like a conduit and a machine and had little to do with anything. Theater just can't be that way. We can't be human captions where all this action's going on and then, we're just there interpreting. That just doesn't match. That's actually jarring for the deaf audience as well, and they're kind of like, can we just move the interpreter? Ironically, I took exactly the opposite approach, and I call it parallel play. If they want to look at the stage, the interpreters are still carrying exactly what you see going on stage, but they're like out of focus, but they're there. And it matches, but they're focused on stage. But now if they want to see what exactly is being said, they can focus on the interpreters. They're more vivid. We also find that the performers realize the work that we're doing. They see themselves now. They say, oh, that's me. I can see them doing my character. And we find that we have much more respect. They actually are quite fascinated how we've been able to capture their personality, and they'll see those gestures and movements that identify them.
Well, I like noise and I like boys.
This particular show here was just awesome to watch. What are adults? But they really look like a bunch of kids, and what they do to portray that. And it's the body language and how kids move and how they talk, So I think they see the depth of our work, and that's actually brought more respect. So we get actually more cooperation, more support. But more importantly, the deaf community has said, oh, that's what we want. This is great. I don't feel like I missed anything. That kind of told me, even if there were some out there that, wanted that invisibility, once they saw what we were doing, we've really just had wonderful response. And so we continue trying to make sure how close can we get. And that's been the interpreters that, work with and train them. They can then take that out into what we call non-interpreting work, non-artistic, because every time you're interpreting, there is another character there. There's another person there. There's another personality. So they found that they've been able to get even closer to the personality that the deaf person they're interpreting for the deaf person, and voice them more appropriately, so that everybody starts to realize it's not just words, it's not just what's being said, but who are the people you're really interpreting for, and being able to bring that across, I think, clear. And I think the interpreters who've worked in the theater with us have been able to gain from that.
What started as the Scottsdale Baroque Orchestra has morphed into a chamber orchestra known for its collaborative and experimental concerts. Reporter Lori Allen attended a recent concert and discovered the secret lives of the musicians outside of the orchestra.
Word is getting out about the Valley's Chamber Orchestra, Arizona Pro Art. Its most recent concert attracted a full house. By night, these musicians are rock stars. Well, make that orchestra stars. But by day, most support themselves with another job. Sure, some play in a band and others teach music. Then there's this guy.
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. and she's always gone too long. Anytime she goes away.
He's Robert Lee. He's been playing the French horn since he was 8. By day, he's in information security.
I worked as a penetration tester for a number of years and even had my own penetration testing company. And if you're not familiar with that term means, essentially I got paid to break into companies. All legal, of course. I got paid by the company that I was breaking into, but we were testing how good their security was. So in that part, the patterns, the logic, the mathematical part of music definitely translated. And if I'm thinking of a difficult problem, I can go play music for a little bit, and by the end of a session, maybe come up with the solution that I was struggling with.
And so when you think about a typical day in the life for you 3 years from now, what would it look like?
Debbie Exner is a coach and a speaker. Except when she's playing the bass. That's right, the big instrument.
At the time in high school, I think it was exciting that it was such a large instrument and that I could carry it. And that appeal's gone now. The most commonly asked question is, don't you wish you played the flute? I like the really low sounds. I think it's Gary Carr that talked about it sounding like chocolate. And I just really love that warm, rich sound and the role that the bass plays in any, first of all, it's a very versatile instrument. It's used in lots of different kinds of music. And the role that it plays in the orchestra kind of is the foundation. So I just enjoy that process and that role very much.
Okay. Speaking can be a lonely job, so Exner appreciates the collaboration of Arizona Pro Art.
Playing with an orchestra is just a magical experience. You're a piece of this huge tapestry of sound, and it's really fantastic to see it all come together.
Exner says being a musician makes her better in the workplace.
You're listening to what's going on in the orchestra, you're watching the conductor, you're looking at the music and what's on the printed page, and you are adapting and adjusting as you go along. And I think those skills are really helpful as a speaker to read the audience and see where things are going, and as a coach to hear the changes in someone's vocal inflection or the way they're breathing, or to get sense cues about how they're sitting with whatever it is that you're talking about at that time. So I think it does help. It sharpens your senses and helps you to use all your senses so that you can do a more effective job.
The conductor says the unusual professions found in his orchestra can be an advantage.
It gives them different background experiences, because we find in music, even through composers like Charles Ives, who was an insurance agent, and Alexander Borodin, who was a chemist, they were still able to produce wonderful music and just amazing works while still having a different day job. So really, I don't think in terms of better or not better it really applies here. I think it just gives them a different background and a different approach from where they're coming from.
And different defines not only the musicians' day jobs, but Arizona Pro Art itself.
Some of the other things we do are collaborations with silent films. We work with different artists that are singers or actors. All throughout the season we have a large variety of what we do, but at our core we still have really great musical ensemble that everything is built around. We have a reach that's just even beyond the Valley. We have an international call for scores where composers from around the world enter our competition. We received one today from Brazil and another one from Japan. So we're not only just making an impact here, we're making an impact globally.
Thanks in part to television comedies like Portlandia, Portland, Oregon has become a punchline. But in our next segment, we meet the locals who are taking their city back and making it funny in their own way.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I love you guys. Thank you so much for coming out to Down to Funny at the East Burn. We're here 2 times a month.
Katie Bryan has a day job, but this is what she really loves to do.
I've been in Portland for a few years now. I'm from Southern California, and there's some things here that are really different from where I grew up.
She's the host of Down to Funny, a showcase of up-and-coming local stand-up comedians. Here's tonight's lineup.
Danny Feltz, DANNYFELTS.
These people are funny just spelling their name.
Dan Duncan, D-U-D.
The material ranges from family-friendly to racy, and all the comedians are here to sharpen their skills.
What could be more Portland than? One time I thought to myself, I was on a bus and I was like, I've got it. What could be more Portland than a pirate on a bike? I think I'm epic. I think I'm really quite epic. I'm not really even close to epic. Like 3 days later, I'm on Hawthorne Street and Portland replies to me with a bagpiper on a unicycle. Just like, I can't top that.
You have to be really good at failing, like a lot. Like a lot. Because sometimes it's gonna be awesome and the rest of the time it's just gonna be maybe the worst thing that you've done to yourself.
Behold, beautiful Portland, Oregon, the descriptive positive noun of the Northwest. Portland is home to a moderately large amount of people, most of whom are from place other than Oregon.
Down to Funny started when Katie asked an East Portland bar to take a chance. Eastburn offered the tap room, usually a home for sports fans. The show is free, and it's slowly building an audience.
I understand everything's perspective. I just don't look at it that way.
We have turned people who were here for Monday Night Football. We've turned them around from the TV screen and they have watched the entire show. Comedy is tragedy plus time. I was asked to teach a women in stand-up comedy workshop at the Siren Nation Festival that they have every year at the Kennedy School. Doing stand-up is the best therapy I have ever had, besides my therapist. What I really enjoy about it is telling embarrassing stories that people can relate to. The greatest feeling ever is when something happens and when something hits you and you're like, oh, that's a joke.
Katie asks her students to brainstorm ideas from their own lives, then they begin sharing.
We did the bike commute challenge at work a couple months ago, and we had a group ride, and it ended up being 2 of us. And so the other,
Then the woman stands up and she goes, "That was the longest flight I've ever been on."
It's a start, and Katie wants her students to learn more about the structure of comedy.
The topic is what your joke is about. The attitude is how you feel about it, and the premise is point of view on the subject. It's scary, but it's so worth it. I love it so much. For me, it was just about showing how to use humor as a way to deal with things, because that's exactly what I do. I'm gonna do a joke for you guys. I love being an aunt to my sister's kids, because you get to hang out with these little kids. They think you're awesome. They're way cooler with you than they are with their parents. So I take my nieces out, get them all jacked up on sugar and caffeine, and then as soon as they start acting like brats and pooping their pants, I just drop them back off on my sister's doorstep and I go and have a life. It's such a sweet deal, right? I really love being an aunt to my sister's kids. But what I'm really excited about is someday being an aunt to my own kids. I mean, I know I'm gonna be a really good mom, but no one's gonna ever come before me.
What we have here in Portland right now, with the amount of talent we have, it's something that could be special, you know? Something maybe people 15, 20 years will look back on and be like, that was an important scene. There was so much talent that came out of that one area. I'm a big worrier. I worry a lot. I feel like my generation is constantly letting me down. I don't feel like anyone in my generation knows how to protest right. It's a really simple skill, but they constantly keep messing it up. Like a friend of mine dragged me to an Occupy protest a few months ago, and I really wanted to get behind the cause, but I couldn't. Because there's one joker there who was walking around with this giant sign that just read, "Government abuse is child abuse." And that doesn't make any sense. That's not how you protest. You don't just pit 2 things you don't like together and go, checkmate, your move, government.
I love Christopher Walken and groovy 60s music so much that when Christopher Walken dies, I would like to have an entire outfit made out of him. Just so when someone's like, "Hey, Katie, I like your boots," I can be like, "Oh, these boots are made from Walken." I don't want to make money off of it, and I don't want to be famous, and I don't want to be cool. I just want to put on something that makes people laugh and makes people happy. Thank you for supporting live comedy, and we'll see you soon.
Brian Olson's art is as much about the process of creating it as it is about the work itself. Olson rapidly paints stunning portraits before a live audience.
Every single show that I do is a complete surprise. I can feel the crowd, even though my back is to them and I'm working. I can sort of feel that tension of like, what's this guy doing?
Performance painter Brian Olson's work makes his audience wonder. Yeah, there's paint, brushes, and a blank black canvas, but there's nothing predictable about the way that he creates portraits. He keeps the crowd guessing until the end.
So when you approach the canvas, walk us through, you're looking at this sea of black, but obviously you see an end point where the audience is completely blind to where you might be going. How do you know where to start?
Right, so when I'm developing like this piece right here, I always sort of start in this zone here. So sort of get this T shape figured out. That then frames everything else in the piece. And then everything basically comes together after that. And then you have the background, which is sort of the finale of the piece. So even though you have this shape here, you really don't get the full effect of it until this background comes in and basically covers and frames in her hair, the side of her face, her shoulders, and it just brings everything together.
And then she can jump right off.
And then she jumps right off, yeah. I have sort of two different styles of paintings that I do. One are the multiple brushes in each hand, and that has a certain look to it. Other paintings that I'm not using any brushes at all, just my fingers or my hands or maybe an elbow here or there. There are different textures that way too. Smooth brush strokes versus kind of a rough use of the fingers. This piece right here is created entirely with my hands, just my fingers. This is much more of a masculine sort of look, so I wouldn't ever paint Audrey Hepburn just with my fingers. So this is one that I'll use the 6 brushes at the same time. You can tell like it's much smoother, the skin tones are even. It just gives a different look, a different texture, and a different feel of the piece.
Those styles set, Olson steps on stage. That's when the audience behind him becomes just as important as all of that technique.
For me, there's kind of a back and forth. I can feel the energy from the audience, which really sort of gives me energy on stage that I can then give back to the audience. So there's a lot of paint flying all over the place, different colors and splatters, and a lot of action. So a lot of times I'm jumping up in the air to reach top corners of the pieces or throwing paint in a certain area. But yeah, it's kind of wild and crazy like that. There's massive amounts of adrenaline and energy and all of that, and I really kind of feed off of that. It's just a moment in time. And what I'm really trying to do is I'm really trying to share the creative process with my audience. But there's always a surprise. And then when it all comes together, it's, I don't know how to describe it, but that's why I love entertaining. It's just a cool feeling.
Artist Craig Royal finds his raw material and more beneath his favorite bridge. By snapping photos of rippling water, Royal says he has liberated himself from the constriction of his visual impairment and discovered a new way to look at light.
I have optic nerve damage or optic atrophy, it's also called. I've had it since birth. My left eye is corrected to 2350 and my right eye is corrected to 2450, which averages out to 2400, which means I can barely see the top of the eye chart. My central vision is a white blind spot. The blurred peripheral vision has an impressionist quality about it, like impressionist painting. I don't see a lot of detail. In particular, my visual impairment abstracts are specifically about my visual impairment, my blurred vision, and the blind spot that I see. Trying to figure out what to do creatively, and I bought a Nikon D40 and started taking pictures with that. It was a really nice process to go through and very accessible for someone who's visually impaired. I take the photos in rapid succession. I use, the camera will shoot 6 frames per second, So I'm just continually firing as the water ripples in front of me. I'm using a 7300 millimeter lens, so it's a telephoto lens, and it picks up the detail of the reflection, something you really wouldn't see from where you're standing. And I use a slow shutter speed at about 1/8 of a second or less, and that allows the reflection to expand and slow down a bit as it moves across the water, and it creates some really fantastic shapes. Back in 2008, I was under the bridge photographing the reflections of the understructure of the bridge, the pylons and the lintels and that whole form reflected into the water, and was interested in that and how the ripples would affect that. And one shot, it showed this band of white light which comes from this narrow gap in the center of the bridge. And I looked at it, and then I saw this other band of light. It was yellow light, and that was a band of direct sunlight hitting the water. So that you have the reflection of the direct sunlight and the reflection of the sky. So there are two different bands there. And so I was real curious about that once I noticed it in the photograph on screen. Started photographing those bands of light and how they were activated by the rippling water and the abstract forms the light would take due to that rippling. It brought the reflections into the third dimension, and it just created some fascinating forms and shapes that I really captivated my imagination. Reflection suggests something, say a face, and I feel like it's not quite complete. You know, I'll alter it to make it more obvious, the face. And I've done that in particular with a series called Persistence of Memory. See, this gap here creates this reflection, and that's where it all happens. I've described the setting as the water being a canvas, the reflections being pigment, and the wind is the brush, and that these three elements come together and are able to create abstract art or an image that's more suggestive, say like a face. The technical term for that is pareidolia, where the human mind tries to make sense of abstract stimulus. Like people will see animals and clouds and things like that. Well, I find that in these reflections, and that will create a story around it for me. It just resonates. I was surprised to find this piece of wood floating inside a reflection when I got the image uploaded to the computer. And the reflections interact it like they'll touch it like delicately, and they'll move back and they'll touch it in different areas. It's really an interesting interaction between light and form. I enjoy the immediacy of photography so much, and the ability to use a camera as a paintbrush to create abstract art. It's just liberating for me in terms of being creative. It's just been wonderful.
That's all for this week on WUCF Artisodes. Thanks for watching. For more arts and culture, visit our website at wucftv.org/artisodes.